On December 10th, 2020, nearly 4 months ago, Cyberpunk 2077 was released onto the wild. And it was an unmitigated disaster. And the company since faced disaster after disaster after disaster, to the point where the game had to be pulled out of the PlayStation Store. And the credibility of CDPR had taken a considerable hit. Now, they promised patches, but those patches did little to nothing. But there was a rumored patch, a patch that would fix it, the patch that would change everything, the patch that would be the mother of all patches. And then patch 1.2 was announced. Suddenly, there was hope. There was light at the end of the tunnel. The patch notes put games in pre-alpha to shame. So all that said though, today we are here to examine, can your potato actually run Cyberpunk 2077 post 1.2? And the answer to that question is no, it can't run it. That's it, really. Okay, you want to know the whole thing. Fine. See, the thing is, like everything else in our lives, this is complicated. Now, I can sit here and say that Cyberpunk doesn't even run properly on my machine. And in fact, the footage of Cyberpunk that is playing in the background right now is post 1.2. It's with the patch. And all I can say is, yeah, it's not there now. For me, it isn't. But then again, my standards, I feel like in 2021 are pretty high. So why do I say this? Now, I am one of those gamers who started out with a fairly crappy PC. Now, I can still point to my PC and say, it is kind of crappy, but no, I mean like real crap. Real shitty pieces of... I don't even have words to describe how shitty they were. So, one was the G41 chipset. Like, it was so bad that I could not play Age of Empires 2 properly. Not the definitive edition, not the later edition with the complete package with the DLCs. No, I mean the original build of Age of Empires 2. Yeah, that. My PC couldn't run that. I couldn't play FIFA 11 because the only thing that got rendered in that game were the jerseys. So it was a bunch of jerseys running around and kicking a ball. There were no people, no human beings, just the jerseys. So yeah, that's where I come from. And also I played Black Flag on an Intel HD 4000. So I'm used to, playing at very low FPS at the least available quality. But my standards have improved. A 1050 Ti is a huge step up from what I used to have. And in fact, the machine that I've planned right now is going to be a huge step up still. So yeah, at this point, I expect a certain quality from a game. Like I need at least 40-45 FPS if I'm playing an FPS game. That has to be the criteria there. And that is my criteria. For that, to achieve that criteria, I actually lowered the settings far past the point where I would even consider playing a game like this. So like my settings currently are at 75% of the resolution. And as you might be able to see in the footage, everything is blurry because it is supposed to be. And on a 1080p screen, this is going to look blurry. And this of course is with the lowest possible settings. You can't physically go any lower than this. So all that considered, is it something that you can play on your potato? Probably, yes. If you can lower your standards. If you're fine with sub 30 FPS frame rates, if you're fine with constant hitching, because even if you put this on an SSD, I haven't because I don't have the capacity. Even if by some miracle you can put this on an SSD, even with the graphics card that you do have, the minimums are going to be so low that your game is going to be hitching anyway. with the CPUs. Like, you are not going to be pairing a graphics card that is probably crappier than a 1050 Ti with a high-end CPU. So the thing is going to hitch regardless. You are going to get the minimum frames, the 1% lows, they are going to be lower than 30. And they are going to be a lot lower than 30, getting the constant hitching. And of course, I'm going to consider the machines that most people actually have. And what most people right now have are at least the equivalent, if not slightly better, than the older generation of consoles. Now remember, the newer generation just came out. Like, the newer generations came out in November. We are barely 3 months into this next gen, and we have what I can only describe as the worst hardware shortage that the industry has faced in some time. Like, yes, there have been hardware shortages before as well. It's not something that's new per se. But especially with the pandemic, everything has slowed down drastically and it is impossible to find a GPU. Like, I can't even find some basic GPU to actually finish my rig. So like, I have the full authority right now because I have the money and my dad is willing to pay the rest. So I can actually go out and buy the PC. It's just that I physically cannot find the parts. And I can't even find the older cars. I can't find 1650s. I saw 1660 Ti being sold for 60,000 rupees, which if you're in India, you know how ridiculous that is. 60,000 rupees is the price for a, high-end 3070, not a 1660 Ti. That's how much the price gauging has gone far. The scalpers are really bad. So all that considered, most people are going to have PCs that are around this point. Unless you have magically upgraded, most of the people have 1060s, 1050 Ti's, maybe a 1650, and most people actually have lower than that. So for us, this is not a realistic option. If you want to really experience the game properly, I would still suggest to not buy the game, even after the patch 1.2. Now, I don't know what the future holds for this game. Maybe they will drastically improve the performance at some point. But honestly, I don't see it because this game, I have said this before in the actual benchmark video, and I have said this before multiple times, this actually is the new Crysis. Because it's not just that it's a performance hog, it actually looks good. It's not that the visuals that are on your screen are, using more resources than it is justifying. This actually looks good. So all that considered, my recommendation even now would be, if you have anything lower than like a 1070, don't bother. If you have like a 2060 and you can use DLSS, then yes, go for it, because obviously DLSS helps. But anything lower than that, like a 1660 Ti would also, I believe, would be fine, because I was looking into it and it would have been a fine upgrade. But not this. Definitely not this. If you are on something like a 1060, even a 1060, I'm including a 1060 into this because even a 1060 does not have that great of a performance compared to a 1050 Ti. No, actually it has higher performance. It's just that this game is very demanding. So all that considered, if you have anything less than a 1060, I would say do not buy the game at this point. Wait for it. Maybe after the market stabilizes a bit and you get some of the older cards at lower cost, maybe get like a 2060 used or maybe a 2070 used at lower prices, and then play the game. And of course, on the AMD side, I don't really have much knowledge based on what card is equivalent to what. So just in case you are someone who has an AMD card and you are trying to use this video as sort of a deciding factor whether or not you should get back into the game, I would just say, go to something like a GPU benchmark or something like that and try and compare the cards. Or if you have the knowledge, then of course it's good. Like, just make sure that you have at least something that is equivalent to a 1060. Otherwise, this is going to be a bad experience. Now, of course, if you're someone who is fine with sub 30 FPS, fine with sub 1080p resolution, you can play it. And in fact, there was no point in this game's life cycle where you couldn't play it. Like, it always ran this way. So for you, really nothing changes. But for the rest of the world, yeah, it's still the same. So if you really want to enjoy the game, if you really want to experience Cyberpunk for the game it is, I would suggest you wait, you get a new PC, and then maybe try the game out, because currently it is not an enjoyable experience. And so, of course, at the end of the video, I also have to say this. That also means that I'm not going to be continuing with my Cyberpunk series. So there's that. Now, that's done. That's that video done. And now I'm going to talk to, you. So if you're finding this video, because you may find this video outside my channel, and you haven't subscribed to my channel, I do put out a lot of content. You are welcome to check out my channel. If you like it, subscribe to my channel. I recently hit 100 subscribers. That was a huge milestone for me. So I'm very happy about that. And of course, a like on this video would be very appreciated. And I really hope you stick around. And if you're someone who's returning to my channel, like who is already a subscriber, I have something planned. So stay tuned to my channel. And all that said though, I will leave you guys in peace.